There are handouts if you didn't get some on the back there. I think most of you have probably gotten a handout from our study on interaction of dietary compounds. If not, help yourself. That is the specific section on nutraceuticals through the prebiotics, which we're going to be discussing today. And then the Encyclopedia of Foods. I gave that. Let her take a look at that. George Pamplona Rogers, he's going to get that name right yet. Just a great part of his life work, bringing together the impacts of foods on our health. I really have appreciated how he's broken that down. I'm giving you a couple of handouts there today. I'm sticking with the GI related issues. I think we've got dyspepsia, gastritis on one of the handouts. And then the other section in that chapter, I think it's chapter 27, is actually looking at foods. And so that'd be just kind of fun. We'll be just kind of taking a look at one food at a time, and kind of looking at what are some of the benefits, and why should we consider bringing this into our daily program. So that's kind of what our handouts are today. So just kind of a point to ponder. I like bringing a little bit of scripture in, at the beginning of our class. And I chose a text, Romans 14:15, New English translation. For if your brother or sister is distressed because of what you eat, you are no longer walking in love. Do not destroy by your food someone whom Christ died. For whom Christ died. And you look at other versions and you just get the idea. I don't know if you folks have ever met anybody that walks around with kind of this chip on their shoulder. Anybody that doesn't eat the way they do, they start looking down their nose. A lot of folks start feeling judged. And one of the goals in this class is that feeling is never going to be felt in this room. And I get excited when folks are starting to recognize that, 1 Corinthians 10:31, it's whatever we eat or drink or whatever we do. Our focus is to do everything for the glory of God. And I think when we can keep it in that perspective, and we can start relaxing and not worrying about this being a salvational item, we start recognizing that we are going to have the ability to improve our overall health by the choices that we're making. Personally, I think when we take this and we start ensuring that those principles are in place in our own lives, our smiling muscles are going to work better. And when our smiling muscles are working better, our digestive system works better, our interaction with other people works better, and we start achieving a balance that would be much more consistent with complete health. So with that, let's open with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful sunny Sabbath day. We thank you for each person that is here today as we are talking about food as medicine. We ask for your presence to be in this place. In Jesus' name. Well, did you all have a good week? Filled with vegetables? Any challenges? Everybody staying cool?
If everybody's wondering about my face, I ran into a big branch operating a DR power machine. Gordon didn't hit me.
Okay.
Cover story.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Janet. That was the first thing I was worried about. Yeah. Wow, those branches can be pretty brutal, I'll tell you. My dad in Nebraska mows about 8 acres every week. during the summer, and he's got one of those big commercial, zero turn, I think it's a Husqvarna, some big massive thing's got a big roll bar on it and everything. And first time I'm out there, and of course he's got trees, and you're zipping along, and it's great if the trees are high, the branches are high, but oh my word, yeah, hitting those, I caught one with the roll bar and the front end comes up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So, yeah, talk about an adrenaline rush. Well, any other fun things or not so fun things going on?
Since we're in here for health, I had a thought that, we talked about diet, but I think you can relate to health. Diet won't solve the problem only. It's your mental state, and it's your physical state, and your spiritual state.
Absolutely.
If they're not all very much as important as the diet, your health is not going to.
Did everybody hear that? Okay. Because in essence, Gene, you're spot on. Because when we're talking about complete health, it's like you go in to see the doctor, and you've got something wrong with your foot, and you walk in the door and he's more worried about the rash on your left arm. And he goes, well, let's take care of the rash first, and you leave and you haven't gotten your foot taken care of, and you're just kind of going, I'm still not feeling right. And it's very important that we are able to, not only the physical, but the mental and the spiritual, aspects are needing to be all interconnected, because each piece of that puzzle is an absolute necessity to have a picture of complete health. And so it's kind of interesting. If you're interested in maybe enhancing the spiritual growth component, we're actually contemplating another kind of segment, another class that we might even work on study and strengthening in that area. So see me after class if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. Any other fun things going on this week? Challenges? Successes? All right, awesome. We have the top of the class here this morning. I like that. So it's been 2 weeks ago, we touched a little bit on pH, and I love the fact that we talk about the Nobel folks and how a statement like no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment kind of gets us all thinking about that. Last time we kind of got a little distracted and going on diabetes and total body response. I wanted to hit on a statement, a couple of things. It's interesting, and I use Wikipedia a lot because I can copy, paste, and throw it onto my PowerPoint very easily for you folks. But it's interesting when statements made in Wikipedia when we're talking about blood pH. I was going, so what's involved there? Are we talking about the pH of the urine, the pH of the stool? What is it that we're actually targeting? It says in Wikipedia, in general, metabolism produces more waste acids than bases. The urine is therefore generally acidic. This urine acidity is, to a certain extent, neutralized by the ammonia, which is the nitrogen and 3 hydrogen, which is excreted into the urine when we have glutamate and glutamine that are deaminated. The amine group is removed in the renal in our kidneys. And so we're sitting here kind of getting an idea of, just in general the processes and the effects of pH. And then Michael Greger, Dr. Greger Irwin, Doc Meyer uses him, you know, the nutritionfacts.org. I mean, just a great resource. Make sure that that's on your radar. If you have questions, go to that website. But I love this, the transcript, resistant starch and colon cancer. Dr. Greger makes this statement: we want alkaline pee, okay, so we want to have alkaline urine. We want to have acidic poop, okay, so, you know, and I'm going, hey, all right, so acidic poop, we want to have a low colon pH, or a low colon pH is caused by short-chain fatty acids, okay, and those short-chain fatty acids, which are produced by our good bacteria when we eat fiber. So we start, you know, and we've been talking about this for several weeks, and it's kind of fun when even I pop in on a Doc Meyer class, and he's kind of bringing up some of the same things, the short chain fatty acids. So we want to have alkaline urine. We want to have more acidic stools, okay. And then that low colon pH caused by those short-chain fatty acids. So Dr. Greger does a really good job in just one sentence, kind of summarizing what it is that we need. Okay? So you can see where, in general, metabolism produces more waste acids than base. Well, I'm going to submit to you folks that it's what we're metabolizing, what we're actually putting into our body that's going to make a difference here. Okay? So, and then before class, we were kind of talking about Linus Pauling. Again, you know, in 1954, come on in. We got a couple of chairs right up here for you if you'd like. So, Linus Pauling, Nobel Prize, 1954. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, just kind of touched on it. And, you know, apologize, kind of when I blew that up a little bit, it got a little bit fuzzy, but hopefully we can read that all right. Orthomolecular medicine, as conceptualized by double Nobel laureate Linus Pauling, aims to restore the optimum environment of the body by correcting imbalances or deficiencies based on individual biochemistry. Okay? Pretty important, individual biochemistry. Using substances natural to the body, such as vitamins, minerals, amino acids, trace elements, and fatty acids. Yes?
I'm sure you know this, but just to give a perspective, when you go back, like just from 50s back,
Right.
the pharmaceutical, like if you're a pharmacist and you had your book, I think it was 1952, they changed it, and it's all pharmaceutical after that. Before that, and I've seen them, it's an herb book. It's all herbs, natural herbs. So you would, if you went to a pharmacy and they opened it up, it'd all be natural herbs, all before that.
Isn't that something?
And then they switched it, so I think it was 1952.
1952.
Yeah.
So 1954, we have Dr. Pauling actually promoting the concept that food is medicine. You know, and like we were talking before class, how many years did it take to actually you know, kick in? The average person, did we have recognition that food was medicine? You know, and the answer is no. It really wasn't. You know, the popular was kind of more of the little niches here and there. You know, and so it's kind of interesting. You know, when we start using terms like orthomolecular biology. You know, this is an awesome class. You guys can go out and impress all your friends now, right? Start having conversations about orthomolecular biology and all this fun stuff, and you kind of give them that, you know, and then you go, oh, that just means that the foods we eat, you know, it's the study on how food can be medicine. And then you can plug in words like nutraceuticals, you know, oh yeah, instead of pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals. That's again where our nutrition is going to be that medicine. terms that we've used a lot, microbiome. Everybody knows what that is, right? Can somebody tell me? What is the microbiome?
Bacteria in your colon.
Bacteria in the colon, okay? So microbiome is that collective term that we use just to describe the normal flora of our GI tract. Dysbiosis.
Not properly balanced bacterial colonization of your colon.
Not properly balanced, so things get out of whack. I kind of call it chaos, right? And I know this is the A group. Everybody in this room knew that, so I understand. So yes, we start looking at our prescription bottles as being filled with fruits and vegetables and whole food options. And then our handout on this section of our study, and those of you that haven't been attending regularly, this study, interaction of dietary compounds, especially polyphenols, with the intestinal microbiota review. This study, okay, was released in February of 2015. First presented in this class a couple months later. And, so it was hot off the press. And so the handout with much writing is actually the sections where we are talking about the nutraceuticals. So impacts of diet-derived nutraceuticals on the microbiota, and then it says as a subtopic, polyphenols. Okay, so somebody just joining our class is going to go, oh great, I made a mistake. I'm in a microbiology class or biochemistry class, and I'm going, yep. But we're going to make sense out of this. So we're going to take it one step at a time. The polyphenols, I kind of like this slide because I wanted to just take a quick little detour, because I think it's just important to look at some of the actions of polyphenols. And so cardioprotection, well, I think everybody in the room would go, yep, that's a positive. Anti-aging. I'm feeling a little younger today than I was last week. Right? As is everybody else, right? But it's definitely, as we keep having birthdays, for some reason, the numbers keep getting bigger. And, it's really important, anti-aging activity. Okay, so everybody in this room wants to be young, right? Yes?
Yeah, there's a way of doing it. Don't have a birthday cake and you never get any older.
Oh, just avoid the birthday cake.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes, I like that. Well, we could probably have a discussion about all the things that are in a birthday cake.
That's what I was thinking.
We'd probably do better without. Absolutely. Kidney protective, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antimicrobial, lung protective, prevention of osteoporosis. So all of a sudden we're sitting here going, wow, not real sure what these polyphenols are, but I think I need them. Okay? Yeah, I want them. You want them. So then again, Wikipedia, we start looking at the occurrence. Where do we find them? Well, they occur in nature. Condensed tannins, well, we're going, okay, what's all that? And then it says found virtually in all families of plants. Okay? So it tells us plants is going to be where we find the greatest abundance of these polyphenols. Larger polyphenols are often concentrated in leaf tissues, the epidermis, bark layers, flowers, and even fruit. Well, so when we start looking at, the fruits that we eat as food, we're going, aha. So we start getting an idea. Absolute concentrations of total phenols in plant tissues differ widely depending on the literature source. And again, that comes back to, the analysis of that food. So again, Wikipedia, if you want to look it up on your own and do a little more in-depth, the search would be polyphenols. According to a 2005 review, the most important food sources are commodities widely consumed in large quantities such as fruits and vegetables, green tea, black tea, red wine, coffee, chocolate, olives, and extra virgin olive oil. Herbs and spices, nuts and algae are also potentially significant for supplying certain polyphenols. Some polyphenols are specific to a particular food, which, you know, I think that just kind of makes sense. We're not going to find, you know, probably a spectrum of polyphenols. We're going to find some maybe in one food group where we're not going to find them so much in another. And I think that comes back to our discussion earlier of, you know, the importance. I want, you know, and I really encourage there to be a mindset of keeping the meals simple, you know, during the day, but mixing it up. If we eat the same thing every day, all day, we're going to miss out. And these polyphenols, I think, is a great example. If all we like is apples and we never have grapes, or we never have blackberries or watermelon, or whatever the case might be, we can start missing out on some of the nutritional benefit just because we don't have that spectrum. So pretty important. Some polyphenols are considered anti-nutrients. Well, as I'm going through this, I found this to be kind of fascinating, because we're sitting here in a class talking about how we can start, you know, enhancing the benefits, get more nutrition or nutrients from the foods that we're eating. So when I saw anti-nutrients, I'm going, oh my goodness, I have got to put that on a slide. You know, just because I know somebody like Gene's going to find this and come up with some really fun questions and kind of go, oh boy. But you know, then we're sitting here talking about a polyphenol that actually interferes with the absorption of essential nutrients. Going, interesting. Especially iron and other metal ions, but by also binding to digestive enzymes and other proteins, you know, and so if those are bound up, we're not going to get the complete benefit from. So now we're sitting here, we've been up to this point talking about polyphenols as we got to have them. You know, they are like awesome things, and then to find out that yes, they might even be working a little bit against us. And then it goes into a little bit more, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, just simply because I don't think that in our biochemistry class today that's going to be the primary focus. But one very important point that I wanted to make here, that anti-nutrients are found at some levels in almost all foods for a variety of reasons. However, their levels are reduced in modern crops. So you start thinking, okay, wonder what's going on there. Probably because of an outcome of the process of domestication. And that means like wheat, we used to have so many different strains. You know, I mean, how many in this room have heard of triticale? Okay, well, we've got a pretty good sampling. The average person, you say the word triticale, they're going to look at you and go, you know, some of these other strains, the modern crops, we have just really narrowed that spectrum. And as we've talked about in this class, I think that's one of the reasons that they talk about why so many folks are having a negative response, because no longer do we have that variety. It's a very narrow spectrum. The possibility now exists to eliminate anti-nutrients entirely using genetic engineering. Interesting. Again, you know, as part of the educational process, wrapping our minds around when you meet somebody that is so pro genetic modification. Yes?
They don't realize that when you genetically modify, like they say, for instance, take wheat, for instance. Years ago, say our grandparents or great-grandparents were harvesting a small head of wheat on a large stem, and this is the waves of brain that we all hear about.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're shorter stalks, bigger heads. But did they get rid of the good genes or did they get rid of the bad genes of the wheat? When they genetically modify this stuff, they're creating a Frankenstein.
Okay. So, and again, there are folks out there that are going to have an argument in completely the other direction.
Yeah.
So again, like we were talking about before class, you know, how it can get to be so kind of confusing. We're sitting here going, wow, so genetic engineering. This, one of the selling points would be, well, we can reduce the anti-nutrient content of you know, of food. And I'm going, you know, to me, that starts getting a little bit scary.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when you look at that last sentence you read there, the possibility now exists to eliminate anti-nutrients.
Right.
Well, if they can eliminate anti-nutrients by genetic engineering, then the opposite could be they can eliminate nutrients with genetic engineering. Because there's
Absolutely.
always two sides of the coin.
Okay, I like it. Yes.
So, the words, you know, with the anti-nutrients and the nutrients, okay? And we read all this, and it turned, and what I'm getting out of it is the anti-nutrients is actually, even though it's working against you, is actually very important for you. And so, in layman terms, how does that work? I'm just curious.
So basically what you're asking is, you know, it can have a negative impact, but there can also be a positive impact.
Right.
And so what balance are we going to find?
Or how is it actually working with the just using that term anti-nutrients, how is it working as a positive on your body?
So basically our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think one of the areas that I have always thought, you know, and you know, I haven't spent a lot of time on anti-nutrients. You know, I'm just kind of going, yeah, they're there. But, you know, for example, if it's going to affect the absorption of some of the, like iron and things like that, you know, I think in essence, in my mind, I look at that as maybe a way of our body achieving and maintaining a balance there. You know, and so that's kind of how I look at this. I'm just going, you know, they're present in so many different foods, but they're not. It's not a leading, you know, concern. It's kind of in the background, and I think that it's just important for each one of us to kind of wrap our minds around, you know, what we're talking about. The take home is we've got to have those short chain fatty acid productions. We've got to have the phytonutrients. We've got to have that spectrum of nutrition.
So,
Yes.
so if we're wanting to get the polyphenols from the plant base and fruits, and if we're eating something like liver, which is iron,
Okay.
that absorbs the polyphenol, right? Wouldn't that be an anti-nutrient?
Potentially.
Okay.
We could, that could be, and then we'd ask ourselves now, are there other sources out there that would be better for us than liver?
Right.
Ew.
See, now all of a sudden we're sitting here making, you know, an informed decision based off of information that we have processed and cognitively been able to make sense out of. Yes.
Genetically modified seeds and plants that ADM puts out, that's all done for money purposes because they put into the new seeds that when the plant grows up, it is insect resistant already in it and the crops don't have to be sprayed. The problem with that is it kills off a lot of bees and insects and stuff, which it's supposed to do, but have you seen many honeybees or bumblebees?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're worried now about crops because the bees pollinate.
Right.
So
Right.
that frankenfood stuff isn't any good.
Right. Yeah, and so it does. It adds a whole another spectrum here. Yes, we got a couple of chairs right up here, and I promise I don't bite. So, yes, a hand.
I think
Yeah.
I think it kills off some of the bacteria in your gut too, and not only just in the plant. those it's modified to resist, have its own pesticide in it. It's not good in your gut either.
Right.
Bacteria.
Absolutely. So again, potentially feeding into dysbiosis.
Yeah.
And just kind of having that thought of, this could negatively impact. This could actually cause there to be more negative pathogens in my GI tract than positives. And so it's kind of that thought process that we're again going to be making more informed decisions from this point. So just kind of an interesting aside there. So then to our handouts, many studies have examined the potential effects of polyphenols against pathogens, and kind of interesting when we start talking about green tea, black tea. Okay, are these going to be some of the more potent according to the studies? Yes. And then in this class, we've talked about some of the pros and the cons. What are some of the cons of the green tea, black tea? What are some of the other compounds that are found in these items, and beverages that can bring some negatives to the table. And basically, they give a great list of bioactive components there. And it's interesting because they can inhibit the growth of many pathogens, including H. pylori. Well, H. pylori is correlated with peptic ulcer. And some of you may have been tested for that. If you've had peptic ulcers, they may run some tests and see if H. pylori, that organism, is actually, part of it. And so it's kind of interesting. Again, we're talking about how a polyphenolic